No, I haven't.
So how did you go about, doing a song for it? Was something written specifically for the movie?
No, I couldn't really do that. I can't write in that kind of way. I mean, like, be commissioned for something. That song that we gave them was a song that Dean and I wrote were when we were on the first tour supporting the last album. Actually wrote it and recorded it on a little cassette. Obviously, that's not the version that's on the soundtrack or on the album, but recorded it in the bathroom of his hotel room. So the song was already written. They wanted us to give them another song. Actually, it was a song that we'd already recorded in a studio, like a year before. It was like an old demo, which was we weren't into. We were like already over that, and but we had already made a commitment that we would, give them a song. So we just convinced them that we had this other song that we thought would fit. I had no idea whether it would really fit or not. I had no idea what the movie. I mean, I never was really into comic books, so I had no idea what The Crow was. As far as I knew, to the best of my knowledge, it could have been like a movie like The Birds or something. But we worked the song out, went in. Brendan came out, our producer. We had like a couple weeks off in between tours and just went in the studio, recorded that song, and I guess I guess it worked out all right. I really haven't heard the whole album though.
It's a great soundtrack. But isn't that kind of a risk to give a song to a movie that you have a certain perception out there, and if you're not really sure what the movie is?
Yeah. I asked if there was any form of as long as there's some form of conflict, you can pretty much relate any song that has some kind of personal conflict to whatever situation. I mean, that's it's like a lot of people ask, what are your lyrics about in this song? Is it about this kind of conflict, dealing with this? And sometimes they're completely surprised. It's like, no, actually, it's all personal. It's all personal conflict. Maybe there's metaphors to other things. Sometimes it's easier to relate a personal problem, personal conflicts to outside, to another party, put it in the third person, or a different situation when it's actually really about your own situation. So I mean, as long as there's like some form of, like I said, conflict, then I guess you can read into it in any kind of way. You can pretty much read into any song, really. On a personal level, how it affects you, I mean, unless it's real blatant, like row, row, row your boat.
Well, that's it. When you're writing songs, you're expressing your own internal conflict or whatever you're going through, and then other people identify with it. Do they come up to you sometimes and explain the song to you?
Yeah, it's actually kind of amusing sometimes, and a lot of times. For myself, I'm sure it's this way with a lot of people. Probably a lot of artists that are like not songwriters, but say maybe painters or whatever, or even in just one-on-one conversations. You may, if the conversation were actually taped, you may find that certain things that you said subconsciously came out, that you actually didn't intend. You didn't intend the message to be read, but because of that you were already absorbing certain feelings and that dealing with certain, issues within yourself. These things come out, and they come out in songs that way. A lot of times, certain feelings manifest themselves into words without you really realizing it. And I have had experiences with, during interviews where a journalist said, brought something to my knowledge that I didn't realize, which is it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's good, because you see your own words in a different light.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't actually with this record. When when we had finished recording in Atlanta about almost 4 weeks ago, I was kind of mentally drained at the time and wasn't feeling really well, and so I didn't really listen to the album for a couple of weeks, and I took time, went away, and and rested, and then when I got back home, I listened to the whole album for the first time since we had finished recording it as a whole, and there certain instances within the words, certain things that hit me personally that where I felt really affected, and that I didn't know that I had really left myself as vulnerable as I left myself. It was kind of shocking in a way. It was interesting.
Is there ever any moment where you want to say, I was too vulnerable and I should take that off?
Yeah, I mean, sure, but I think it's natural to feel insecure, and maybe everyone, people I know, myself, it's easier to not deal with things. It's easier to keep things on the outside and deal with things on the outside than it is to really, really dive into what's really eating at you or what's breaking you down as a person. And I think sometimes when the things come out in songs and stuff, I feel like, maybe this is something I didn't want, to share. Maybe I, hope no one knows really what I was feeling, because then, I'm letting these people know me. Maybe I don't want to really let these people know me, and if they do, maybe that has to make me look. It forces me to look at myself, or a person to look at themselves even harder. So, yeah, it is a hard thing to do. I mean, you write a song. Especially when I write a song, I really only feel comfortable about writing lyrics about things that are personal. I mean, maybe the last record I did a little bit more of observational writing. But as far as where I really feel comfortable, it's just dealing with things that are my own things within inside me. But then you put this out on print, you put it out on vinyl, on disc or whatever, and then suddenly you're there as a dartboard for people to throw shots at. And try to, a lot of journalists look at that as an opportunity to sit there with that dart, and score points up and rack points up against you. And it's like, why would someone want to fucking do that to someone else and to another person? I mean, why would they want to hurt that person and attack them on their feelings, or whatever? That's what I have a hard time with. And so when you're sitting there in the recording process or just in writing the band, it at that moment it's personal, and it's just what you have there. It's your own. It's the four of you, whatever. But suddenly you put it out, and it's not just yours. It's like everyone else's who buys it. But if you think about it like that, you can't think about it, because then I wouldn't be writing honest songs then.
Yeah, you can't censor yourself.
Yeah.
But do you learn something from your songs personally?
Yeah, I think so, especially on the last record. It's probably a lot more therapeutic than the first album was, lyrically.
Anything in particular?
No, just dealing with just personal things. I mean, everyone goes through little traumas from time to time, and I mean, whether you're a rock musician or I don't know, a mountaineer or something. Everyone's got their own ways of dealing with things, and it's unfortunately it's a lot more exciting for the public to read into some stars' personal problems, because then they can take their inventory, and get amused by it. But I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard doing it writing that way, but I suppose maybe if I was one of those writers that told stories, although a lot of times people tell stories and they're probably describing themselves. Like Pretty Penny was written in third person, and I didn't really realize until afterwards that it was really self-descriptive. And I think it's probably the case, a lot of times, in sort of allegorical